All right, let's get started talking about Horizon Air. So, probably one of your very, very first questions that I want to go ahead and get out of the way is Horizon Air Alaska Airlines? Is Alaska Airlines Horizon Air? If I apply for Horizon, did I also apply for Alaska? If I already applied for Alaska, does that mean I automatically applied for Horizon? Can I apply for both? So, that's kind of all the same question. Here's the answer. Alaska Air Group owns Alaska Airlines and Horizon Air, both airlines. One is a mainline, one is a regional. We see this with a couple other companies like American and Delta, but the difference about Alaska and something that makes this a little more confusing is Alaska and Horizon's career site is shared by both companies. And so you go to the same website to apply, whether you're applying to an Alaska job or a Horizon job. So that's where some of this like extra confusion comes in, which is totally understandable, which is why I wanted to kind of kick the video off with that clarification that they are two separate companies. Horizon is a wholly owned subsidiary of Alaska Airlines. And so when you apply to Horizon, you are applying just to Horizon. When you apply to Alaska, you are applying just to Alaska, and you can be applying to both. Or if you received a thanks but no thanks from one airline from Alaska within the last 6 months, you are still eligible to apply to Horizon. Woo, hopefully that kind of clears that up. The rest of this video, I'm going to spend talking about Horizon specifically, some of the benefits of working for them, some things I think that are very attractive for working for Horizon. Also, the requirements to become a flight attendant, what you need to know, some tips, some information about the interview process briefly, and maybe some things that are not quite as positive about Horizon. So if you don't know, I'm Abby Unger. I am the owner and founder of Flight Attendant Career Connection, a company that helps aspiring flight attendants in the United States land their dream job faster and with less frustration. So first of all, let's get started by talking about the Horizon Air Pathway Program, or the Alaska Airlines Pathway Program that they have for flight attendants. This is the biggest pro, or the biggest thing that I think is a positive reason to work for Horizon, and that is because they have it's a pathway program. It's a flow program. We sometimes hear on the pilot side, but what this means is Alaska Air has committed to hiring 20% of their flight attendants out of from inside the Horizon Flight Attendant Work Group, or the Horizon Flight Attendant Group. So that means that if you get a job and you're working successfully for Horizon Airlines as a flight attendant, or Horizon Air, forgive me, I'm probably going to say Horizon Airlines, but it's actually Horizon Air. If you are working for Horizon Air successfully as a flight attendant, then after 6 months, you have the opportunity to participate in this pathway program. And this pathway program kind of gives you a little bit of a leg up to applying to Alaska, which is really, really exciting because there's not really any other way to get a leg up with any of the airlines. And in fact, although Delta and Endeavor do have a bit of what they call a pathway program, it's not nearly as easy, streamlined, and accessible as the Horizon pathway. So that's something that I really love about the Horizon opportunity. If Alaska Airlines is in your future, then it's not a bad idea to go through Horizon if Alaska is not accessible right now, and to work for Horizon, because it only takes 6 months. You only have to be at Horizon for 6 months before you're eligible to participate in this pathway program. The pathway program, the application's open twice a year, and as a Horizon flight attendant, you would be notified about that, and then they will give you, like I said, they'll give you the notification. You can apply to the special job listing just for Horizon flight attendants and participate in the interview that way. So I think that this one really is the most generous of all the pathway programs. In fact, like I said, we don't see very many. We see pathway programs a lot on the pilot side, but not really on the flight attendant side. So that's something that I think is of huge benefit for working for Horizon. The requirements, let's get those out of the way. So requirements to work for Horizon as a flight attendant. You do need to be 21 years old. So it's pretty self-explanatory, right? You also, so in the job listing, it says that you either need to be in possession of or able to get a passport. So it's not one of the ones where we're seeing recently with some of the other airlines where you need to have a passport with at least a certain amount, 6 months to 36 months, depending on the airline of time left before it expires. It doesn't appear to me, based on the job description and the job requirements, it doesn't appear that you would need to have a passport in hand to apply. But you do obviously need to be able to get one because Alaska and Horizon flies internationally. Tattoo policy. Let's talk tattoo policy. So it is very generous as far as tattoo policy, but it's also very nuanced. So I did a screenshot of it so we can look at it together. So the tattoo policy for this role is the following: no visible tattoos on your face, the front of your neck, or your chest. One tattoo the size of a quarter or smaller, is allowed per hand. Tattoos in other areas cannot be larger than a credit card or offensive. Employees can have one tattoo per arm, leg, foot, back of neck, behind each ear. Tattoos on the back of the neck and behind the ears are only permitted if they are not visible when looking directly at the person. Tattoos may only be covered with a uniform piece or approved jewelry or your watch. Covering with makeup is not allowed. So, like I said, nuanced, generous, and self-explanatory, right? Alaska was actually the first airline to allow flight attendants in the U.S., the first airline in the U.S. to allow flight attendants to have visible tattoos. So pretty cool. That's the tattoo policy. And then the other thing is there is a swim test. Most airlines, you only need to be able to jump in the pool. But Alaska and the Horizon job listing and the information as far as the process and the requirements that I've been able to locate make it appear that the swim test is a little bit more robust than just jump in the pool and inflate your life vest, that you may need to have a little bit of swimming skills. So I'm going to do some more research on that. I don't imagine that you would have to be able to like do a 50-yard freestyle timed or anything like that, but it does appear that there's a little bit more of a requirement than we normally see. So that's just something to put out there. If you're not a swimmer, if you don't know how to swim, if you don't swim, I always recommend that aspiring flight attendants, that's something that you do, that you kind of put out there as something you want to do to make yourself a better candidate, because learning how to swim, knowing how to swim, being comfortable in the water is really going to serve you well at training, whether it's with Alaska, Horizon, or with one of the other airlines that has a ditching module during their training. So I think that that's something to really look into. The YMCA, private lessons for adults. It's just a good skill to start working on. Okay, so that's a little bit about the requirements. The rest of them are basic. 2 years of customer service experience, high school diploma or GED, the very, the basic ones that we always see, right? Let's talk about training. So training is 4 weeks long. It is in Portland, Oregon. It's not in Seattle like Alaska. It is in Portland, Oregon, and it's paid. So 4 weeks of paid training. That's a huge plus. We love that. Their bases. So you do need to be able to, willing and able to relocate to one of the assigned crew bases after training. Bases: Seattle, Portland, Oregon, Medford, Oregon, Boise, Idaho, Spokane, Washington, Anchorage, and Everett, Washington. So these are the bases. They're listed in the job description. They're on the website. I'll probably put them in the description below too. But you'll notice that there's a lot of very Pacific Northwest based bases, cities, we don't get that Southern California like we get with Alaska. Okay, that's a kind of a big difference. We are seeing really all Pacific Northwest, except for, of course, Anchorage, which is in Alaska. Now, Everett, Washington is kind of an interesting one because that is the name of the airport is Payne Field, which is where Boeing is headquartered. And Alaska is the only airline that flies in there, like commercial airline that flies in there. So that's kind of an interesting one. And it's only about an hour from Seattle. Besides Seattle, these other cities though are pretty affordable. So I think that's encouraging. That's something to kind of be encouraged about, especially if you are in a place where you're going to be relocating or you're going to be looking for secondary, renting an apartment or something like that. These other cities, Medford, Spokane, Boise, they're going to be more affordable as far as crew bases go in general. So that's another kind of benefit or pro on the Horizon side. Something that I noticed when I was looking at the job description that I just wanted to point out is that in their job description, in the paragraph at the top, they said that they were looking for someone who could be an authentic and a gracious host. They're looking for someone who can maintain a positive and approachable manner, and that they're trying to create an airline that people love. I thought that those are kind of like really great keywords that are apart from the core values that are also very plain and very easy to access, which I love their core values. But authentic and gracious host, where on your resume can you add that in? That you were an authentic and gracious host, maintaining a positive and approachable manner. And it went on to say with guests as well as with coworkers or teammates. And so a positive disposition and then approachable meaning always available, ready to answer questions, making sure people don't feel like you're bothering them, right? If you're approachable. So I just kind of wanted to point that out because those are different, not different as in the opposite of, but just like extra besides the core values, which are, I should have written them down. Let me see if I can remember them. Own safety, be remarkable, be kind-hearted, do the right thing. And then there's another one. I don't remember off the top of my head. You can drop it in the comments below if you remember. That would be awesome. But their core values, I love them. Be remarkable, be kind-hearted, do the right thing, own safety. Just really thoughtful words that create such a clear picture of what they're trying to do, what they're doing, how they plan to create an airline that people love. So I thought that I just kind of wanted to briefly talk about that because, of course, whenever we go to apply to a new airline, we want to make sure that our resume, if you have time, which sometimes we only have like 1 day notice and 3 hours of a window, and we don't have time to update our resume and make it match the airline. But if you do, usually Horizon and Alaska will open for several days. Well, it's not true. I think Alaska opened for just a few hours last time. But right now, Horizon's open as I'm recording this, and it's open for a few more days. So they usually open for a few days. Touch your resume up. See where you can replace the word customer with the word guest. Alaska and Horizon use the word guest when they talk about their passengers. See where you can put kind-hearted in there instead of customer service, or make another swap. It just sort of is a nod to the airline and gets you, and it can start to get you thinking about how your background is a good match for that airline. The application process. So once you apply, you fill out your application, and once you apply, the next step is a one-way interview, but it's not a video. It's a voice recording. So it's like a video interview where you're listening to the question and then you're answering it, but there's not the video aspect. It's a voice recording, which I think is hopefully, if you are super not into the video, like on-demand video interviews, then this is sort of like a nice compromise because you don't have to be on video to do it. But they're still getting to hear you and in real time get to hear you kind of communicate. So it's a voice recording on demand. And then the next step seems like different times, different different times that they do the process, there's a different next step. So the two options, well, they're kind of similar, but one is virtual, one's in person. So some people get invited to a face-to-face that is in person, and they go and they do a group activity, and then they have a face-to-face interview. It's usually two recruiters interviewing you, the one candidate. But sometimes that whole process is done virtually. The group activity is done virtually, as well as the face-to-face is done virtually. So very similar in process, but sometimes it's virtual, meaning like using Zoom or Teams or a program like that. And then sometimes you are in person. So we'll see. We see that a lot with lots of airlines that will kind of like go back and forth, some in person, some virtual, depending on their time frame and things like that. Now I want to talk a little bit about pay. Okay. So this is the thing. This is where it starts to go a little bit downhill. All right. So the pay is low. Go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and say it. The pay is low. Now, they are in contract negotiations right now. So currently, over 2/3 of the flight attendants in the United States are in contract negotiations, which is a ton. The reason that I say that they're in contract negotiations, their contract is coming up on expiring. Whenever these flight attendant contracts, which these are union contracts, collective bargaining agreements, whenever they expire, they don't just dissolve. You continue to operate under that agreed upon contract until a new one is ratified. So they don't go away or go anywhere. So when this one expires in the next couple months, or it might have already expired, it doesn't go away. You continue to work under this contract until a new one comes up. They're in negotiations. The reason I point this out is because it won't be long before we see new pay rates. Okay, this is only going to go up. We're going to get more money. They're going to start at more money. They're going to get a higher starting rate. They're going to. They just are going to. Everyone is going to get a pay raise. Everyone deserves a pay raise. As far as flight attendants go, they're going to get a pay raise. The starting pay right now is $20.66. All right. $20.66. And they're guaranteed 75 hours a month. That's the reserve guarantee. Once you actually get a raise at 6 months. So you start at your $20.66. You get a raise, $20.91, and that's at 6 months. And then at your 1-year anniversary, when you start year 2, you actually get a pretty good raise. So $25.55. Still low, right? Still low. Just being honest, it is low. But it's going to go up. If you get hired now, new contract is coming. You will get a raise. When the new contract comes, you'll get a raise. Sometimes you even get a signing bonus. Sometimes there's a signing bonus that comes with a new contract. So there's like a little bit of money that can sometimes be given out. Whereas, if you were to wait and you weren't an employee, you don't have access to that. Also, remember our Alaska Pathway program? It only takes 6 months before you're eligible to apply with the next round. Remember, twice a year, pathway program applications open up. So if you go ahead and get started now, then whenever the next one comes around and you're eligible, after your eligibility, then you do a really good job at Horizon and you have the opportunity to work for Alaska, which is, a higher pay rate, a higher starting pay rate. Things like that. So keep all those things in mind. I want to be fair that it is low pay, but it's going to go up. If this is something that you just can't do right now, you just couldn't wrap your mind around how you would actually literally make this work, then that's okay. That's okay. A pay raise is coming. Circle back around, keep your eyes open, circle back around and apply when you can. Apply when the pay is doable for you. I mean, that's for every airline, right? But I do want to point out, because I do think it's a little surprising too. It kind of surprises me that the pay is pretty low, considering how generous the Alaska and the Horizon Spirit always is, the way that they, are portray themselves, and I think that that's authentic. So I do think it's a little bit surprising, especially like with the generosity of the pathway program. All of that kind of stuff sort of surprises me that the pay is lower. So hopefully they'll do the right thing and bring it up to at least a livable wage with the new contract. I don't have any expectations why that wouldn't happen, but that is something that should be mentioned and talked about. Training is paid, which is nice. And that gives you a little bit of a runway, a little bump up, because they are going to put you in housing and things like that for those 4 weeks and pay you. So you do get to start with a paycheck. Not always the case with every single airline. So something else to kind of keep in mind. I hope that this answers some of the questions that you had about Horizon, about what is the difference between Horizon and Alaska, and can I apply for both, or do I have to apply for one? And I hope that this gives you some clarity as far as what your next step should be concerning Horizon and Alaska. And I hope that you continue to have good luck. I hope that you are able to reach all of your flight attendant goals and career dreams this year. And I'm rooting for you. Good luck, and I will talk to you later.